videos I'm going to be reacting to, but also at the same time kind of also clarifying the whole, and also clarifying some other things, and actually translating how Mr. LaVey's foundation for Satanism actually, funny enough and ironically enough, actually makes sense. And even with the comparison with Shivacharya and Venus. But anyway, so I figure the best way to start is to first actually let a video of Anton LaVey actually speaking, and then I'll translate that and actually kind of bring some clarity to it, and then after that have this these notes be read by the computer, and then explain that and kind of like bridge the gap and making them be like, well, they're kind of similar, and then to top it all off, we'll then react to the facepalm one. So we'll start with Mr. LaVey first, and this is from late 1970s to early 1980s interview with him.
To be formulated and organized into a productive social force that takes or accepts the premise that man is not a creature to be redeemed, but one who must recognize within himself his own potential, his own liabilities, and deal with them accordingly. We feel, as Nietzsche felt when he obviously wrote Also Sprachbar, his opinion is that man can no longer fall back on established religion as a sort of identity, a collective identity. And occultism is a sort of do-it-yourself God kit, in whatever form it takes, oriented towards personal power. As a result of this, those who could be accepted collectively simply by being Christians at one time, for example, now find that with automation, with advances in technology, that their roles as human beings are lessened a great deal, are much less viable than ever before. So as a result of this, they have set themselves up in sort of a minor godhead role, or god role, or goddess role, in a specious, or rather illogical at times, form of importance, or sense of importance. So I honestly feel occultism gives many people a chance to be big fish in little pond. That man must learn, of course, his animal nature by studying the nature of the beast, and from the children, with childlike sense of wonder, and to be able to relate to these things within him and the animal within him in order to develop into the higher man, the man who is ultimately going to succeed or to survive.
Hi, Mika.
On this planet.
Happy birthday.
In your book, The Satanic Bible, you say, hate your enemies with a whole heart, and if a man smites you on one cheek, smash him on the other.
Yes.
Do you believe in this?
Yes, very much so. I think everyone does, except they cloak it in forms of false altruism or false morality. They feel that there's so much repressed aggression and repressed hostility that is never allowed to manifest itself because of teachings such as turn the other cheek, that it has made man an intrinsically vicious creature because he's bottled up all of these feelings, or he channels them into what would appear to be innocuous directions that are actually much more harmful to those who are around him.
Do severe critics say that Satanism is an excuse for sexual and orgiastic excesses of some of the people who like to look after the animal instinct.
Yes, I fully agree that it is an excuse, but then I also agree that Christianity has been an excuse for many too, because there are many sects of Christianity that believe that in order to attain a spiritual quality or some sort of communion with God, one must be purged of any carnal desires, and the only way to rid oneself of carnal desires is to release them fully. And of course the Klishti in Russia believe this, that there's this Finkline, this little flame that's inside of everyone.
Yep. I mean, that's where it ended. But anyway. So, specifically the part when he was talking about experiencing the animal within and learning from the children in that childlike state. Essentially, when you're allowing yourself to emote and have those feelings be let out, allow them to be expressed, you're actually being, well, for one, you're reacting the way you're supposed to be reacting naturally. Because when you suppress that, that's when you start getting mental disorders, emotional disorders, psychological disorders, and it actually plays a tone on you. It plays like a long, intense downing effect on you when you're repressing it. And when you repress something, it persists and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But when you release it, it's off. But the idea of him speaking about to actually experience and go towards those urges, not the ones that are like, as you know, saying that if like someone harms you to like completely just overkill them. That's not exactly what he was intending. It's intending that if you have to express your viewpoint and defend yourself, then you do what you have to do, be it verbally or whatnot. But when you're having the desire and you're trying to pursue a desire, you should be experiencing your want, the desire, and what's natural to you. Because when you do that, that's when the next thing comes in. Then we just listen to this. Hopefully it'll... It won't, so let's like I'll read it. Here we go. And this is talking about Shukracharya, or Venus, and of course Anton LaVey was connected alongside Lucifer, so it fits. So whenever you hear Shukracharya or Venus, just put Lucifer's name there. Shukracharya belonging to the lineage of teachers and protectors who are called the guardians of light and perspective. Venus governs the color sense in man. That's Centaurus. One of the eyes of Shukracharya was injured during the episode of Vamana, Avatar of Vishnu. That one, don't change his name because that would not really connect that well or make sense. The term love is blind comes from this representation of Shukracharya and being associated as another name called the blind solar deity because one of his eyes got injured. He has also been known to be called Kaiva or Kavi, both meaning wise, insightful, a poet, and a sage. And it also indicates the ability to see meaning where there isn't any meaning. Now talking about the Asuras, which are me and everybody else watching. Every human being technically is an Asura. Asuras are not Rakshas, and Rakshas who are the people that are who are very baneful, selfish, and cruel. Asuras in reality are your architects, computer programmers, astronomers, engineers, and anyone else that tries to build something. Essentially, they have the thought or the idea of I have a desire for this, I have a longing for this, so I'm going to build it and get to it and do it. They build everything from buildings, risers, lights, lamps, even the chair, couch, or wherever you're sitting on. They build that. Also the device that you're using to connect to actually watch this. But except instead of having something like not really convenient, they actually make it convenient. They build something that brings their paradise down to earth. That's what they're building and pushing for. And Venus is the guru of the Asuras, and also grants them their material wishes and their desires. And the Asuras people always try to bring heaven to earth. Now, heaven doesn't have to be the Abrahamic one. Heaven is being used as a place of paradise to the self. One always tries to bring their paradise down to earth. Venus has the ability to give you the wishes, but you have to ask in a very specific way, and also answers the questions that you give, but they have to be specific with details. And Venus is also called Dayata Puja, honored by demons, honored by Asuras, honored by people. He is the lord of the underworld, which is this planet. It's this planet. Rahu is also known as an Ashura, and he is very friendly towards Venus, and is also his biggest devote, because that's his guru. And now this is how powerful Venus is. Venus wants you to enjoy this earth. Venus wants you to have a beautiful environment to live in, because only then you will find true devotion. What did Anton LaVey say? Let me see if I can find it.
Of importance for people, but of course, childlike sense of wonder, studying the nature of the beast. Man must learn, of course, his animal nature by studying the nature of the beast, and from the children, this childlike sense of wonder, and to be able to relate to these things within him and the animal within him in order to develop into the higher man.
Experience those feelings, that desire and that push for something, and that innocence to obtain it. Pushing so hard for something to have a wish be granted.
The man who is ultimately going to succeed or to survive on this planet.
In your book, The Satanic
Okay, let me see what it is.
Bible,
So I honestly feel develop into the heart. I think everyone does, except they cloak it in forms, turn the other cheek. The vicious creature, because he's bottled up all of these feelings, or he channels them into what would appear to be innocuous distractions that are actually much more harmful to those who are around him.
do you think, or like some of your critics say, that Satanism is an excuse?
Attain a spiritual quality or some sort of communion with God, one must be purged of any carnal desires, and the only way to rid oneself of carnal desires is to release them fully.
And that's the thing. If you have a desire, and if you release it, you're not living in a state that is fulfilling and a way that is enjoyable. When you have a beautiful environment to live in, that's when you find true devotion. So if a desire brings you that enjoyment, if you don't have your desire, you're not going to be living in enjoyment, so you won't be able to fully devote. When you have experience and have the best environment to you, because only you know, that's when you'll be content and be ready to experience that higher state of self that Anton LaVey was talking about. Once you get those desires that you want and experience them, they're fulfilled. Then you move on from it. That's the natural way. And repressing only makes that desire even bigger and bigger. And even if it gets to a point where it doesn't manifest in the way that's optimal, it's still going to hold on until it gets experienced. But in my opinion, and I completely mean this, a lot of people don't really understand the deeper picture of Satanism and what Mr. LaVey was pushing. When you allow the natural human to be itself and not shame it, and understand that it is what it is, experience how you want to experience yourself, allow yourself to, and see yourself as trying to best yourself and to live your most fullest, fulfilling life. And that's what you're supposed to be focusing on. Instead, they're looking at all the stuff that is, for example, stereotyping, which is probably more likely what this next video is going to be about. So now I'm actually going to listen to, oh boy, here we go. It's going to be, it's the same one, it's from the same person that I've watched before. So I'm prepared to, have a big black mark on my forehead. But without further ado, let's listen to this now.
If you like this video and you want to give me support and you want to see more videos like this in the future, I want to talk about Anton LaVey, and the reason why is because I get a lot of people asking me about it. Because I made mentions in my book, Team and Dealer, which is available on Amazon.com. I made my experiences known in that autobiography based on what it was like meeting spirits like Anton LaVey.
Okay. He's passed on, but okay.
Ted Bundy,
Okay.
and a few others.
I don't know why you're putting a serial killer with Anton LaVey.
The problem about talking about these kinds of people that are dead people
Okay.
as a medium is that it can attract them.
So? What's wrong with that? I mean, say for an example, if Anton LaVey was to come into my space, well, I would be like, wow, and be hospitable. Just because their viewpoint may not be the same as mine, it's still somebody admirable, and you should at least try to be hospitable. At least I would. In fact, I probably wouldn't even know what to say. Like, what brings you here? But anyway.
So that's one of the biggest reasons why I've always stayed away from talking about him too much, because I don't want him here. I don't want it to draw him, and I'm pretty sure it's a creepy thing, but dead people will watch YouTube. They like him, and I'm pretty sure it's a creepy thing, but dead people will watch YouTube. They like YouTube. What?
Wow, what? Okay.
Whether you believe it or not, dead people like to watch YouTube. And it's great. There's nothing wrong with that, but it gets kind of creepy when you know someone like Anton LaVey or Ted Bundy, Hitler.
Don't compare Anton LaVey to those two people, please.
Or other people could be watching your videos.
Oh, they're human beings on the planet. That makes the most sense.
And they don't have to watch the videos. The point is they can, but they usually would just come here. I've been avoiding it because I'm not afraid of Anton LaVey.
Good, you shouldn't be, because surrounded by nothing but stereotype crap.
But the reason why I've been avoiding it is because, one, it's in my book,
Lazy.
and two, my experience is mine, and I wasn't really comfortable yet talking about it because it was a really traumatic experience
Stereotype, here we go.
for me. Meeting Anton LaVey was not a fun experience.
Probably because you insulted him. Or you said something not so nice, or had an open mind, and allowed him to interact with you normally.
The way I met him was when I started exploring reading his books on Satanism.
Okay? Thing is that you have to have an open mind and not let something cloud your viewpoint. If you have something cloud your viewpoint, you're not going to be able to actually see it for what it is.
The famous book, Satanism,
Listen. Okay.
and reading about the Satanic Bible, reading his book, I will admit, absolutely, I was utterly fascinated. I could not put that book down.
This is like a recurring thing I've noticed. Knocks him down, lifts him up. Knocks him down, lifts him up. Next, knocks him down, lifts him up. It's like doing the hokey pokey over and over again with something. I'm gonna knock this tree down, then I'm gonna put it back up, and knock this tree back down, then I'm gonna do it again and again. God.
And the reason why was because I wanted to get into the mind of a Satanist, and I wanted.
Hey, Jeremy. I mean, I'm just reacting to like another one of those crazy videos, but now it's funny. I want to get into the mind of a Satanist. Why don't you just learn the faith then? Why don't you actually go in and study it, experience it, and experience it hands-on yourself, rather than having to go into somebody's head and somebody's perspective. Oh, definitely.
To see what his philosophies were.
Good. That's what you should be. But you have to keep an open mind and try and understand the message.
The scary thing about Anton's book is that everything in there really can make a person genuinely agree with nearly every single thing he said.
Point being, but when you have an open mind, that tends to happen. Because when you read material, regardless of what the book is, if you have an open mind, you get hit in the face with it all. But then when you're trying to understand it, you weed out the stuff that makes sense and doesn't make sense, and then you take the value of what you can make sense to you with you. That's the point.
But that's the philosophy. That's how he gets you to be a Satanist.
That's by somebody's own. By technicality, it's somebody's own will. Anton LaVey doesn't, write words or make his book be solely for the purpose of bringing people to the faith. People can choose to go to the faith they want to. They're still making the choice. He doesn't woozy you.
It's because it's so convincing on a human level.
Mm-hmm. Here's this one. I never read the work of Anton LaVey. Never have. I went down the path of it though. I never read it though. I was down on that path, and I was essentially in the standpoint and viewpoint that I was of it until Satanists dismissed me. But still, that doesn't mean Anton LaVey was the reason why. No. I went down in myself to experience and learn and take as much as I can to learn and not push anything away. Just take it all and then take what makes sense to me and implement everything until I see what works for me, what doesn't work. But because of that, I can't turn my back on it, if that makes sense. Because without that, I wouldn't be here where I'm at right now. I can't go the other direction because I'll have to leave hell behind and push back anyway. Anyway.
The problem, though, at the same time still, is that there's so much ego in Satanism.
There's a difference between being egotistical and having self-respect and empowerment and confidence. Self-confidence and having the faith and the drive within oneself to know that they're worthy of anything that they want to obtain and to be the best they ever, to make themselves shine. That's not egotistical. Egotistical is pushing yourself up by any means necessary and also then taking that same push up and then putting others down. Also being known as narcissistic, you want to be technical.
I just don't agree with that. The problem, though, at the same time still, is that there's so much ego in Satanism.
A lot of self-worth. Of course, that's the foundation. Better the self.
And I just don't agree with that.
So you don't agree with bettering the self, huh? Okay. Okay, you said it.
That's the one thing about Satanism that I really don't agree with.
Bettering the self? Helping the self? Expanding the self? Becoming the best state of oneself? You don't agree with that? Oops.
Is a lot of it is based on entitlement, which...
No! 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 At the core, I'll say it again, the core of it is to best empower thyself. To get thyself to thy best state. How it's done depends on the person. And how they interact with Satanas or Lucifer or any other. How they choose to go about that, that's on them. They make the choice. That's between them and Satanas, Lucifer, or whichever one you're going to be going towards and connecting to the most. Whichever one it is, or even also may not even connect to one of them. It's still a branch of it. The person makes the choice, and it stays between them, and if they have a connection to seeing Lucifer and Satanas as a being, between them. That's it. There's no right or wrong way, but the core has to be the self first. Because even like what I've said, if you're not standing on your own 2 feet, if you're not well, nothing around you matters until you're standing up and well. Because if you're not well, in your perspective, the world won't exist. If you're down, you're down. The world is gone. Nothing matters until you're well. Once you're well, then you can worry around you. Not the other way around. Not the point where you worry about everything outside of you, to the point where you're down from it, but you can't get back up because you wasted all your energy on the exterior and others instead of yourself.
Just literally false entitlement.
You know, I can say this though. I think, people should have the entitlement to be their best self. I think people have the right, and in fact, they should be allowed to be their best selves. I think they should. Actually, you know what? I wouldn't even say think. I know they should. Because when somebody's at their best point, they're always vibrant. And if somebody's disagreeing that somebody's best state is unacceptable, someone's hissy fitting.
But it highlights this so greatly because it goes to the extreme levels of teaching people, his disciples, that basically you should always, go with your desires, your
Absolutely. Of course.
animalistic desires.
Now, here's the thing. You should always go for your desires and experience them. But of course, you have to be realistic and practical. If you desire for something, and if you have to work to get it, you have to work to get it. Until you fulfill it, you're going to be driven to get this, whatever it is. And once you obtain it, you'll have experienced that desire, and it'll be finished. Move on to the next one. Because you're trying to bring paradise to your perspective. When you have paradise with your perspective, and once they're all finished, you're going to have the last desire, which is the desire to experience divinity at its highest point. That's what happens.
But that's not necessarily always a wise decision.
That makes sense, yes. You have to be practical, realistic, and understanding, and you have to adapt logically, of course.
It doesn't serve us well if we always go based on our animalistic needs.
Well, I mean, when I think of animalistic needs, here's what I think. Essentially, the survival. For one, you have to do what you have to do to survive. If you don't, you're dead. Animalistic is like, okay, I need to eat, hunger. That's food. I'm cold. I need a roof over my head, shelter. I need to keep warm, clothing. Water. That's the foundation and the core to any human being. You need that. Now, when it comes to like lusting for someone, that's an urge. And I mean, it all comes down to self-control. But the way it's being perceived like this is saying that it's allowing one to lose control of the self. That's not what it's being pushed. It's having the allowance of the self to express itself freely, but not to a point where it harms intentionally. Because the thing is, in Mr. LaVey's temple, when those rites were being practiced, it was all consensual. That's it being done correctly. Not consensual, that's not correctly. That's not it. It's allowing the desire, and it's being allowed to by all the ones that are attending. They all made the choice and agreed to it. That's it being in control, but experience at the same time. But now when you have something like serial rapists out running amok, pedophiles going after children, that's the same urge, but not being in a way that is self-controlled or contained, or even better yet, having no sense of restraint. That's what it is.
Because we're not animals, we're human beings.
But we do have an animalistic instinct, driven by desire, lust, and hunger, and the need to sustain the self. It's like the inner flame.
And that's the reason why I didn't
And besides, it was being spoken in a way that was like metaphoric.
agree with a lot of his statements too.
Because you didn't see the metaphor in it, and the symbolic message behind it. It was just being used as an example in a symbolic way.
But as I was reading the book, aside from that, I want to also say I'm not a Satanist.
Of course not, because if you were, I mean, neither am I, but still, you can kind of tell the difference between the two people. One that has not been on the path and is going along with the stereotype. One that has, and even though he's not one, tries his best to understand it and try to help clean up this completely unnecessary degradement of a group of people just practicing their faith and trying to, push back all the BS that's coming from the other side.
I am a witch. I came out a few months ago as a witch.
I'm lost, but okay.
I like to say I'm a mystic,
Okay.
personally, but it's still the same thing.
No. Being a mystic and a witch is not the same thing. No. No. Mysticism and being a witch, doing witchcraft, is not the same. No.
I don't align myself with Satanism at all whatsoever.
Okay.
But the reason why I want to talk about it is because of that was how I met Anton LaVey's ghost. It's how.
I mean, wise man once said, if you have not gone down the path, experienced the path, don't really talk about the said path.
I met his spirit. And he's not a ghost, though. He's very, very present. He's very, very ascended in the descended.
What? He's ascended in the descendant. It's like he's up, then he's down. So where he started. He has an enlightened state, but he also has a descendant state, which is nothing. No.
World. Anton is a soul that died as a Satanist.
So?
Some people say, allegedly, that he tried to save his soul after he died.
You can't, to be completely honest, you really can't say, because you're not him.
I really don't care what that was about. The point is
You can't speak about it.
he's still a Satanist and
So?
a devout Satanist,
So? He has that right to be.
even in death,
So? He has the right to be.
after he died.
So?
Now, this is my personal experience, and I don't want to disrespect his family, his generation, anyone like that. But I am going to say that that's the one biggest reason why I've neglected to make this video, because I'm always afraid on how people are going to respond to this, because I know it's going to be very much hard to believe.
It all depends on how you present it. Nobody's perfect. But that's why, even like when I do these live streams, I always stop and I think to try and articulate the best way of saying something.
But now that I've come out and talked about my 1800 years in hell,
How'd you get out then? Oh.
I'm a lot more braver now to talk about other things.
Okay.
Hell was the hardest video I ever had to make.
Okay. Which one? My hell? Or the Abrahamic hell? Or the underworld, which is Earth?
Hands down, the hardest video of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all the videos I've made, that was the hardest one.
Mm-hmm.
And I pushed that away for so long, but coming out and talking about it gave me peace in myself, and the support from all of you has given me so much that I cannot thank you enough. And it allowed me a chance to find peace within myself about the process and all the support. And when people pray for me, when people send me energy, send me love, I feel this energy sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. And it really has immense support. It really has immense power. And I want to talk about Anton because this will give me more empowerment to come out and talk about it.
I'm just gonna pull a random card from this deck. Not even looking. Seven of Swords. Bullshit.
But the reason why, it's not necessarily for me. It's for you if you are thinking about trying to summon Anton LaVey.
Summon Anton LaVey, huh? Okay.
My answer to you, don't do it.
God forbid you talk to somebody who founded a belief system.
Anton LaVey came to my home when I was reading his Satanic Bible.
Did you inform him? Could you please leave my space? And if you want to connect with me some other time, let's plan a time for that. Did you maybe consider doing that? None of my business though.
When he appeared, I didn't realize it at first. I was so immersed in the book. I really was. I was so fascinated. And I was actually like going, yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. Holy shit, that's true. Because there was a lot of things on the God particle that he talked about Godhood. That is true, which is common in Satanism and in Luciferianism. But there's a lot of power to that truth because we do have a God particle, but they take it to a dark place.
Stereotypes. Stop it.
And that's the problem. That's why I don't believe in Satanism, because they take the God particle to a dark place.
Stereotype. Not every Satanist has an obsession with the dark and black. Not all of them. Everybody stay with me. The core of Satanism is to the self. To best grow the self.
My motivation is to a light, to a positive, to a loving place.
And what does that got to do with anything? I mean, Satanists can be loving, supportive, empowering, and enlightening too. The same way. I mean, you haven't met Kendra or Mary Ravensoul, so can't really say that.
To a neutral place
Okay.
at the same time. Anton LaVey ended up starting to pop up in my mind. I started seeing him in my head. More and more as I was reading throughout the weeks. It took me a little while to get through the book, but I started seeing him in my third eye, as if he was in my room. And then eventually, I astral projected, and there he was, in my room. And I had suddenly found myself in my room, and I astral projected, and this was at the same time while I'm reading. I ended up finding myself literally in my room, sitting on the astral realm at the same time, while I was awake, talking to Anton LaVey.
Okay.
That was a very weird experience because something just didn't feel right.
Yeah, because you're reading something engaging in a book, and then all of a sudden, out of the body. Now you're conversing with someone. on the other side while still reading. That's split.
Don't get me wrong. When I met him, I was very honored to meet him.
I don't think so. I don't mind it.
I was.
No.
Because the guy was famous, he was.
Just because, you know, somebody's famous doesn't mean that you're honored to see them. Like, for example, that's like having somebody who's a well-known, let's see here, abuser to women, that's well-known, comes anywhere near me. I'm not going to be honored. In fact, I'm going to be all like, oh, you better start running before, you know, my leg goes in between your legs and pops your cherries. Yeah, no.
A world-renowned Satanist. He was the guy who created it. And I know that sounds weird to some people, especially maybe people who are completely against it. And I am against it.
Then why'd you do it then? If you're against something, you're against it. You shouldn't then be engaging in it if you're against it.
But I also believe in treating people with respect regardless of what they believe in.
Oh, no, you don't, because, oh boy, how many times have you taken a swing at them? Almost like every video so far.
I am not always perfect in practicing that motto, but I try. Anton was very respectable.
Respectable? I mean, very respectful. And if you actually have seen an interview with him, hear him speak, or any of that, you'll come to find out that he is very pleasant and easy to talk to. Gentle voice. But also phenomenally intelligent.
When he was in my room. But over time, as he was talking to me, I couldn't help but notice he kept looking at me up and down.
I don't think he would be doing that.
It was really weird. And I tried to ignore it, and I would talk to him about certain things in his book that I was a little confused about, and he would explain it very well. He was very helpful, I will admit that.
Oh, good. That's as far as you should have taken it then.
He was very chill. And some people, mediums, psychics, even Satanists who have met him in the spirit world.
You can't really say for Satanists, so don't even try.
I'm sure that they would explain or describe him in that same manner. But the problem is that eventually it got very uncomfortable because as he was talking to me, I was sitting on my bed and he kept looking behind me. And I would look behind me, and I was very present in this experience on the astral realm.
But you're reading a book, so you're... Okay, whatever.
And I kept looking behind me, and I didn't see anybody. But he kept talking to me, and then he would move his eyes just a little bit, looking up at me. Like, I would be...
Well, if you noticed, like, if you're familiar with, like, his interviews, and actually, like, when it's recorded on video, you'll notice that's, like, his natural, like, how he moves his eyes when he talks. So it's essentially kind of like that, somewhat. That's naturally how, when he spoke, that's just natural to him. That's how it is, at least based on what I've seen.
I look at you, and then I look up.
Exactly what I just said. When he communicates and speaks, when it's been recorded, he does that eye love, like that. That's what he's always done.
Into the difference there. And I noticed this. And that...
His natural subconscious way of, you know, how he... headache.
Rang red bells to me, and I kept thinking over and over, is a demon behind me? Who's behind me? And I know demons can go invisible. I know other entities can go invisible.
Hey, Mika.
I I know devils can go invisible.
Uh-huh.
So I was very concerned about that. And I kept looking.
Mika Mystery. Well, yeah, there's Mika Mystery, and then there's Mika. Wait a minute, what? Hold on. Hold the pigeons. I'm gonna take a look. How? That? I have no idea. What in the world? That's odd. I mean, I can't imagine if it's like the same one, but anyway, I'm gonna get this out of my way. Okay. That's odd. But nonetheless, get that out of my life.
Looking behind me, and I was like, why are you looking behind me?
He's not looking behind you. Instead, he is just talking to you naturally, the way that, as he always does. Because that's dropping out of what I said. Oh, whoops, wrong one.
And he said, I'm not. I'm looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very smooth about it, but I knew it was suspicious. Eventually, he left, and he said, if you have any more questions, you just let me know.
That's nice. At least in my opinion.
I appreciate you being open-minded.
Yes. That sounds like something he would say. That's how you should be.
I was like, okay. But just, can we be real about one thing? And he said, sure. I said, no demons come to my home. You understand that? And he said, of course. I was like, so you're a Satanist, but you don't believe in demons?
Yeah, that's the thing.
He's like, no, I believe in demons, but
You can't say what he believes and doesn't believe in.
I don't worship demons. He said he didn't worship.
So, you can give acknowledgement to a spiritual being without being subservient and, worshiping them.
I noticed
So?
that too.
So,
Eventually he left, and then I went back to my body. But this was like very fast. Like these experiences seem slow when they happen, but then when they're done, it's like seconds only went by.
mm-hmm.
Long story short, because this can get long, and that's why I wrote it in my book, Demon Dealer.
Double D.
I ended up in an experience when I was with my spirit guides in this dream state.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, a lot of my guides, including the beloved that I was with at the time, I was in a relationship, a very serious relationship with a spirit named Hunter at the time. And when I was with him, he was always present for me. He helped me heal after my rape. He helped me heal from so many things.
Okay.
And he was the paramount of everything for me. He was everything. LaVey knew this. The thing about it is after Anton left my room, I remember specifically finding myself in a dream, eventually not that long after. And Anton attempted to seduce me with power.
What good is that going to do for him? Besides, I don't think he would.
And he tried to get me to join his allegiance in Satanism.
Mm-hmm. But
And whether people believe this or not, really, frankly, I don't care.
because it's fabricated.
It's my experience, it's
Fabricated.
my testimony, and it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Anton LaVey was not a philosophical Satanist.
Can we play that one more time in the back, please?
Anton LaVey was not a philosophical Satanist. He was a true Satanist that worshipped.
He wasn't a philosophical Satanist, but he was a true Satanist. You don't say! You don't say! You don't say!
The devil. In fact, from what I do recall, I actually one time read an article where Anton LaVey confessed to one of Charles Manson's family members. I think it was Susan Atkins. And apparently she had shared in one of her testimonies that Anton LaVey actually confessed to her in private that he was actually a literal Satanist that believed and worshipped Satan.
What has that got to do with anything? And, duh! Wow. So why bringing in a serial killer into all this? Are you coming up with stuff that is trying to even push him down even more and more and more and more? Because, you know, you're playing the kitty pity patty BS like what's done on the children's playground. In the sandbox. Stop it.
He believed and worshipped the devil.
So? That doesn't mean you can bring in somebody that's a, the mother of a serial killer into this.
Devils. He worked with them.
So? So did I. I'm just fine.
Susan confessed this.
So what? That doesn't mean anything. He believes in this faith and practices this. No. Okay. That doesn't mean anything, dude.
At one point.
Ooh.
I obviously am not in support of the Charles Manson family, but
How come like everything that she's talks about always has? I don't support this though.
I couldn't help but realize that was quite remarkable, that confirmed it when I came across that actually last night right before I made this video. And
So finding confirmation about somebody's belief system from somebody else, yet they've been saying that this is their faith system long before the person that said a confession of them saying that they believe that. Do you not realize how stupid that sounded? Do you not realize how you just made yourself look like a dimwit?
I wasn't planning that because I was just looking up Charles Manson for other research, for other works, but, based in regards to satanic killings.
No! You don't bring that up because it's essentially the same, what's that called? What is that stupid term called? Satanic ritual abuse? Which shouldn't even be called that because you're now pushing hate against a protected group of people because of their religious faith. I mean, heck, what about, if that's the case, then what about the Islam killings? No. We don't get to pick and choose in this world. It's either it's abuse and killing because of a faith or not. We're not going to just allow these ones to go through, but not this one. If one of them has to be tolerated, then the same has to go for all of them. Don't get to pick and choose. And besides, Satanism does not prioritize killing people. Use your head. Stop believing the Hollywood BS.
And killings in general, and demons. But the point is that correlation was very loud to me.
Wow.
It validated what I had experienced with Anton.
You weren't killed. You weren't even swung at.
Not like I needed validation, but it just gave me more.
Well, it led you the wrong way, hon.
Obviously. What happened in this dream with Anton? Basically, straight up, he put me in a situation where I was surrounded by what seemed like 10, 15 demons.
No, that's not how you said it happened. You're fabricating this, and you're just coming up with stuff out of your head.
They looked like men, some of them,
But wait, it was only him.
I knew they weren't men. These were demonic.
Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna just go off and just say for the rest of this video, it's BS. It's all fabricated. There's nothing more to even listen to this, and it's not. Essentially, this is being spoken about just to get views. Because I can't even listen to this anymore, because it's just like, yeah, whatever you say. Whatever you say, hon. I bet you that's what happened. There's a difference between somebody being authentic and then somebody coming up with stuff to pull it out of their tush. This is the case. It's kind of a little bit, what's the word? It's kind of a little bit vile. Yeah. I mean, I would too, Mika, because, I mean, I get so annoyed and agitated with those stupid things. But anyway. Yeah, I mean, I can't handle this thing anymore. I'm finished for watching this, because I'm probably going to just, ugh. But anyway. I'm going to be ending this stream here anyway, because if I keep watching this, I'm going to probably just jump off a cliff. Because it's just, I can't. I can't anymore.